Hey, we're doing a series unpacking the vision for Catch the Fire Church in Toronto. And this has been the process of probably about 18 months of prayer and discussion, looking at prophetic words, just really digging into God's promises and instructions for what he's looking for this church to be. And in this series, I'm going to be talking to different people, spending lots of time with senior leaders, Steve and Sandra Long, and a number of our team here as we just unpack some of these individual statements. And what we've been looking at is, we want to paint a really good picture of what we feel the Lord is asking us to build as a church, not as a corporate entity, but as a family, as a congregation. And so today I'm here joined by Dallas Wigston, who's one of our worship leaders, and we both lead worship here at the church. And we're going to dive into this topic of worship. And part of our vision, we've said this sentence: we are compelled to respond to the beauty of God with extravagant worship. We love God with passion and excellence, knowing we move his heart. I love this sentence. But the funny thing about worship, Dal, is that it's really a heart response to God, right? And I love that kind of first sentence there is like, we're compelled to respond to the beauty of God. Like, I want to just ask you straight off, like, do you always feel like responding to the beauty of God with extravagant worship?
No. Yes. No. It's a really powerful statement, and I love that it's in there. Because it's a beautiful reminder, right? And the whole thing of respond is like, I think there's like this, what comes first is to behold and to be aware. That's right? And so I love that the word extravagant is in there because, if we're really beholding the beauty of God, which is vast and extravagant, then our response should be as equal to that. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's why I think we have even in there that thing of like, this response should be just as extravagant as that of which we are beholding, which is the beauty of God. And so I think this statement is so powerful for me. And it's just an incredible reminder of like, oh, this is in response. Yeah. Right. Because we've been doing this for a long time and not to say that it's just like routine, but there can be times when it becomes habit and, oh yeah, we've done this, we know what we're doing, yada, yada, yada. And but a statement like this is so powerful because it's just an incredible reminder of we are responding to that extravagant, incredible beauty of God. And our response should be of equal nature.
Yeah, I love that. And it obviously reminds me of that verse where it says that we love because he first loved us. Mm-hmm. And there's that kind of, as we meditate on who God is, mm-hmm. there is this love that, bubbles mm-hmm. up inside of us. I think what's interesting about worship and in a private context and in like when we come together is that it's not always that natural. Like sometimes circumstances or distractions or whatever, just your kind of heart mm-hmm. attitude where you're mm-hmm. at. Mm-hmm. But I love that this is kind of responding to the beauty of God in the sense that the beauty of God is a constant. It's eternal. Yeah. And so we see the beauty of God through digging into his word, through spending time in thankfulness and all of those kind of factors. And that constant, like you're saying, we want to respond with extravagance. And that second sentence there in this that we're talking about today is that we love God with passion and excellence, knowing we move his heart. And this one, we were just chatting a couple of minutes before and realizing, man, this is an interesting concept. Like, mm-hmm. firstly, that we move his heart. Mm-hmm. Where do you think that comes from? Like, is that something that you believe in, that you move God's heart when you worship?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a bold statement for sure. And one that's like, oh, you say it, and it's like, to think that I move God's heart almost feels, well, that's quite bold of you, Yeah. But I think of it in terms of like when we gather together as a church to worship, we are fully expectant that we are going to meet with God. right? We believe that when we worship him and when we love on him and we praise him and we bring thankfulness that he is going to meet us and we are going to meet with God. And so I think that's kind of what that statement communicates for me, is that we're going to meet with God.
Yeah.
And he is, he's moved by our worship.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing to talk about, because I'm trying to like not say the wrong thing in it, but it's like, no, I do believe that when we gather and we worship, we meet with God, and that is moving his heart, right? And I think this thing of like, if like we are called to worship as people and as believers, I don't think God is just like, yeah, like just worship me and I don't really care, but just do it. And so it's like, I don't think that's actually God's mindset or his heart.
No.
I think there is this thing in God where he does love our worship, and not in this strange ego way, but like, just like, I think there's just something about, he does care about our worship. And so if he cares about it, then it is moving his heart.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's kind of maybe my breakdown of even a statement like that, of like knowing we move God's heart.
Yeah, I love that. I love that when we come together for worship, you can actually feel that his desire for us is actually even greater than our desire for him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this kind of incredible exchange. Like it doesn't, when we worship at church, it doesn't feel like this one way, we're just going to get through the songs. How long have I got left before the preacher gets up?
Yeah.
It feels like a group of people that are passionately pursuing him and he's pursuing us.
Yeah.
I think that's quite unique in the churches that I've been to. And I think, we're obviously recognizing that is true for us today. And this vision is something that is painting a picture of where the church should be 5-10 years away. And so where do you feel like how do you think someone will experience our church 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if they walk in for the very first time?
Yeah. What actually would just be my experience, because I've been able to come to Catch the Fire, whether that be just conferences or Sunday mornings, long before I ever called this church home. And there was something just about walking into that auditorium and just automatically feeling something, right? And I was quite young, but now I can know, like, that's the presence of God that I'm feeling. And so my heart for 5 to 10 years from now is actually the continuation of that we as a house, as a church, as a family, as a body of believers, that we do such a phenomenal job of protecting that, fanning that flame, feeding that fire when it comes to the presence of God in this house. Because the dream that would be in my heart was just like this beautiful exchange of us loving on God and giving him glory because he's so worthy. And then in return, us just meeting with him and being encountered by his presence and transformed by his presence. And just in the most powerful way that can be, right? Us giving him everything with pure hearts and just giving him the glory and that he is so due. And then, and a result is we are transformed by the presence that we're encountering. And I guess I'm trying to like, how do I say that so it doesn't feel like this cliche thing, but like it's like, I've experienced that of being like encountering God and transformed by God in worship. And I guess why I'm being a bit hesitant, I don't want it to feel like, oh, we just come to worship so that we'll be transformed. I definitely don't want to, lean that way, because we worship because he's so worthy and we love him and he deserves everything that we can bring. But I can't deny the fact that when we step into that place to meet with God and to worship God, that we are transformed in that encounter with him. And I just think that's just a beautiful thing, and that's something that I would love to see our church just growing and growing and growing down the line.
Yeah.
And that people who come in can experience that.
I think that's so beautifully articulated, and I totally agree that what we want is for everyone who comes to any expression of the church, really, to be stunned, really, by the genuine passion and love that is expressed by us as a group of people for God. That it doesn't feel like ritual or routine, but it's truly worship.
Yeah.